Okay, this is another video. It's another update in regards to this 1976 Harley Davidson XLH, and I've gone through it. I've explained a little bit on the last video about the starter, where the starter was the Hitachi starter was messed up. But so I've spent some time going through this bike, and I'm just going to explain it one part at a time. Hope it doesn't bore you. But the first issue was, and I've put the oil tank on. I found these exhaust pipes that I had. It had drag pipes on it, but I found some actually original 65A exhaust mufflers for it. Anyhow, I put the starter in, and I also put in the starter solenoid back there, and I wired the starter solenoid to the Hitachi starter, and the starter solenoid actually has two poles, one that goes to the starter motor and the other one goes to the battery, and then there's a little solenoid switch in there. When you touch that terminal, it activates the starter solenoid and turns the starter. Well, I did that, and so I hooked up the starter, and then I also hooked up the other side to the starter solenoid to the positive lead of the battery, and I also grounded out the battery, because it takes, you have to ground the battery back to the frame. And I did that, and I didn't have any trigger mechanism, so I just essentially, the two power terminals there, I just jumpered them together, and I got nothing. There was no, just jumpering it across there, I got nothing. So the starter solenoid was bad. So just so happens I had a second starter solenoid. I don't know really what I got, where I got it. I didn't really know the condition of it. So I replaced the starter solenoid and tried it again. Well, turns out that starter solenoid, even though I don't know where it came from, it didn't work. So coming over here and stealing parts, I took the starter solenoid off the 71 Super Glide, and you can see down there, that's where the starter solenoid rests. And so I did that, and lo and behold, it turned over. And I squirted some oil down the cylinders before I did that, just to make sure that, and I did that when I had the first starter solenoid in there. So I squirted some oil down the cylinders, and the engine turned over. There's no spark plugs in it. The engine turned over great, and I put my finger on it, and it feels like it's got good compression. So the next step was to go and to see if I could get it to work by using the starter solenoid through the switch. So I hooked up the relay, the starter relay, and it's this little guy right here. That's the starter relay for this year model. And then after hooking those terminals up, I got nothing. So I went up and started looking at the wiring. And the wiring, this whole lead here was just off. The two contact points, this is for the horn and this is for the turning indicators, and this is high beam, low beam. So I had this, and I didn't have any parts with this bike. This bike did not come with the hand controls. So I got enough parts to where I was able to now the high beam, low beam, and then they had the horn button and the left side turning indicator. On the other side, there was a master cylinder with the brake lever, but it did not have this switch. And so fortunately, the lead wires, even though they were all messed up, the wires hadn't been cut, they were just unsoldered at some point. And so I had another switch. This is just on off, just like the high beam low beam. You can see there it says high beam low beam, but it can be on off as for the starter. And this would be this actually for the starter itself, and this would be for the driver's side or the passenger side turning indicator. These two leads here are just for the rear brake light or front and rear brake light. So I got that going. But I still didn't have any power to the bike. And it turns out, and I found this old switch I have, and I don't know if it comes off of a car or what it came off. It might have been another old motorcycle. But the red wire, this red wire that actually goes back to the starter relay was fried. It was cooked. I mean, it was melted all the way through the wire harness that goes back underneath the to where the starter solenoid actually sits underneath the battery box here. So I replaced that, and when I did that, when I turned when I got power to it, I got power to the switch, but I didn't have power to the starter relay, and I couldn't start it with using now having this button. So turns out that starter relay there, it was bad. And so where did I have a starter relay? Well, on the 71 shovel head, that's the wire for it. But it's an older design where it actually mounts underneath the voltage regulator. That's the starter relay. This is the voltage regulator. And so actually all the wire leads for the voltage regulator were there. They had been cut, but they were long enough still where I could mount them correctly. I did replace the red wire that went to the starter relay, and lo and behold, when I turned the switch on, I actually had, let's turn it on here. I can't, it's going to be hard to do it with one hand. Let me see if I can put my knee up here. When I turned it on, I got lights. And also I had to wire the rear tail light, because the rear tail light was cut here. This wiring harness, fortunately that plug was still intact, and the wiring harness was, the leads were cut for some reason. I don't know if the wire, it had been spliced a couple times back in that rear fender. But now when I put the brake light on, when I hit the brake, you can see there that the light works. And then if I touch these two wires, together, I'll just hold them together. Fortunately, let's see if I can do that. These two wires. When I touch these two wires together, I also get brake light on and off and so forth. So I got that. So I had power in the bike. So the next thought was, does it work with the starter solenoid? So with the starter solenoid, let's see. Oh, I had that. And this switch This is the run button, and if you have it off, it kills the starter button. So you have to have it in the run mode to have it start. So there you go. I got that to work. So with that now working, I had to go through and check spark, and the coil was mounted here. It had a custom bracket, chrome bracket that you can get. So I actually had the original mounting bracket from another bike, and so I mounted it back up in its original location. Fortunately, the leads, they didn't cut the leads, they just folded them back on the wiring harness. So the wiring harness is all original up to here, and then because I couldn't get the wire out without stripping the wiring harness, so I actually stripped a wiring harness back to about here, back to here, so I could get that red wire out. And once I got the red wire fed back through there, I just electrically taped that back. So that's the only part of the wiring harness that has been tape spliced back. So I did clean up, and I still need to, because one thing that if you notice here, you're not seeing the generator light working, but you can see the high beam low light works. So that works. So the next step was to get spark. So I moved the coil. I moved the coil back to its original location. It didn't have any spark plug wires, and so it just so happens I'm working on my son's a car he's got, and I stole some of the extra spark plug wires, and so I made a set of spark plug wires for it. This wire here is for the horn, and the horn does have power to it from that switch that I talked to you about. So now we have and I tested for spark, and I didn't have to clean the circuit breaker, because I don't believe this year has electronic ignition. I still believe it's points ignition. So I had spark. So with that said, I had to focus in on the carburetor. And I told you that before. I was going to have to take the carburetor and clean it to get it to work. And a couple things on the carburetor was, it was missing. This was just a bolt here. It should have a stud. So I replaced it and put the original stud. It didn't even have a gasket between the carburetor and the manifold. The throttle cable, it was messed up. So now we have a throttle cable in there. It's got a new accelerator pump. Now I did actually get the oval cover. It came with it, and the back cover that came with it. And I put oil in it. So the next step is to see if it'll run. And let me grab some fuel over here. And this is True Fuel, but I've already used True Fuel up. But I'm going to pour a little fuel here in the carburetor. It's kind of a hokey way of doing it, but what are you going to do, you know? So I've got that. Power's on. Let's see if it'll start. It's not going to run very long because there's not much fuel. Let's see if it'll give it a couple pumps. Let me get over on this side. So it's running, and it runs pretty good. Oil pressure light went out. Pretty good. No smoke. No smoke coming out of the exhaust. I mean, here again, by the title, this thing's only got 2,300 miles on it. But I don't know how it got all the guck and everything on it, if that's really the case. But anyhow, we have a running motorcycle. So the next step is to see if it goes into gear. And before I do that, I still want to go and see if that thrust washer is in the primary case, because if that thing is in there, that could kind of mess stuff up. So I need to do that. It does not have because I took the other. It had a really aftermarket, this is aftermarket too, but it had a really crazy looking master cylinder on it. There again, the oil light came back on, which it should once there's no oil pressure, so it's definitely getting oil. Got good oil pressure. I've still got to figure out what's going on with the generator. The generator light should be on and then go off once it gets up to like 1,000 RPMs, and that's not happening right now. So the reason why I fed it with a funnel versus the tank, because that's another problem, and that problem is over here. You can see here at the bottom of this tank, I tried to clean it out with some vinegar, and it wouldn't even hold vinegar for like 4 or 5 cups, because you can see there that this gas tank is basically gone. You can see all the little pinholes down here. So I couldn't use that, so I don't know if I want to use this gas tank, because if you try to repair it and then you put an expensive paint job on it, it's just, you're running the risk, is it going to hold? So that's one dilemma I got right now. And the other interesting thing about the carburetor, when I went to rebuild it, I put an expensive kit in it. I didn't use one of the cheapies. If you're going to have it run and be right, you want to have a good carburetor kit in there. So I did that, and I put it back together and tried to put fuel in it, and it kept leaking. And I thought maybe the float setting was bad. You have to have a certain float level, and if you don't get that right, it actually has an air vent. These carburetors have an air vent on the top of the bowl, not on the bowl itself, but on the top of the carburetor. There's a vent to allow air to keep from getting air trapped. So I messed with that off and on, took it off and on, thinking I did something wrong. And then I got to looking at this thing, and I don't know if you can see it there. I know my camera is 1,000 years old, but I'm just going to hold it down there. But you can see behind my fat finger there's a crack that runs all the way along that where somebody just cranked the crap out of it and cracked the bowl. So that was another problem I was having with the bike before I could even run it, because it was just spewing gas everywhere. So after discovering that, thinking that I've set the carburetor level and everything correctly, I started looking closer, and it turns out that was the problem. So here again, I came over to the 71, and it just so happens I have you can see there, I have a carburetor for it, and so I took the bowl off of that one, and sure enough, that was the problem. I also have another one up here that I didn't realize I had, that's been rebuilt as well, and that's got the secondary jet on it. But I didn't realize I had that until I started scrounging around after I took the XLH bike off. So you can see down there, that's where the starter solenoid sits. It sits on the back of the primary cover there. So I got a new solenoid coming for it, and so that's been the issue. Getting this bike going. I know this video is probably dragging out a little bit, but I just thought I would show you kind of the step-by-step process I took to get this bike. Before I go to restore it, I want to try to get everything on there where the mounts are correct, the parts fit correctly, it runs, the transmission's good in it. When I drained the oil out of this thing, the oil really was not that bad. It was relatively clean, and it's kind of weird, I figured this bike, it was just somebody tried to change it, or didn't change it, or maybe it's never been changed. I don't know. So there's also an issue right now with the brake. It should be engaging a lot. There's something going on there. I just don't think that there's brake shoes in there or something. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I did take it out and try to clean it a little better. Another experiment I worked on when I was out there, I tried to use a aluminum bright to clean some of the cases and stuff up a little bit. That did work a little bit, but the goal was just kind of clean it up enough just so I could really kind of work on it. It's just nasty. So the next step is I'm really impressed about the wiring harness. Is as good as it is, but the next step is to figure out what's going on with the generator, why it's not charging. I'm going to have to take that apart and go through and run some diagnostics and see if I can figure out. It might be some of the terminals might be severely corroded. You can see here, these are circuit breakers. I cleaned this one up a little bit, but you can see here, these probably all need to be taken off and gone through. I also need to get a switch for it. This was just a temporary thing to see if it would run. And it's got, sorry, oh. So I also have to fix the fender there. It's fortunately it's only had one hole in them. Most of these fenders, if you've seen them, they got thousands of holes with different seat changes over the 49 years. So I have I have to repair that. I did find a seat for it, an original seat for it. I'm going to have to get a gas tank for it. I have, this is a 16-inch, actually it's a Goodyear tire. This tire is probably back from the 60s or the 70s. That back then, but I do have an 18-inch aluminum rim to put on it. I'm going to have to get tires for it. But it's now to the point to where I just want to make sure it goes in gear correctly and the clutch works okay. And then I can think about getting the bike to restore it. But I got another bike, you know, I'm still working on the 71 over here, the 71 XLH. I'm still working on that. So this bike is going to take a back seat for a while. I'll probably have one or two more videos just to go through and with the seat mounted, find out what I can find out about the generator on it. I do have a set of fork tubes for it. I bought those. I found a good price on the eBay on that. I have to replace this. I don't have one of those. That's pretty pitted up. The fork tubes look in great shape. The spindle looks good. The front brake will have to be, disc brake will have to be rebuilt. And find out what's wrong with the back brake. Something's not right there. I mean, it shouldn't have that much play in it for that kind of. I mean, my God, that's, you know, that arm lever that's moving 2 inches or more. So, anyhow, this is part 3 of the 1976 Harley Davidson XLH. This is a bicentennial year. I've been pointed out by comments that this is not a bicentennial bike. It's only a bicentennial bike only by the year that Harley had the tribute to the 1776 signing. So it's a great bike. I don't really see any damage in it. It's reasonably clean. I do now have a Virginia title in my name, and it still shows the 2,110 miles on it as actual miles, because that's the that's the title I got from Virginia. That's what they showed it as. And so I want to thank you again for watching. I know I probably rambled on a lot on this one. I'm sure the jittering of my camera wasn't the greatest, and I apologize for that stuff. But you know, here I'm just one guy in a garage just trying to bring these bikes back to life. It's just an awesome thing to do. This is a little past my period. I don't really, you know, like the older bikes, but this does have the peanut tank on it, so it kind of did stay within the same time period with the engine. They haven't done much of these engines over the earlier 70s, so and it's also got the government mandated to get the brake onto the passenger side, or as Derek would call the drinker side, and then the shifter on the left hand side. So thanks again for watching. Please like and subscribe, and if you got comments, let me know. I'm around. So thanks again. This is part 3 of the 1976 Harley Davidson XLH. Thanks for watching.